Nobody cares about what you're doing right now. You're just planting seeds. You're announcing to the world who you are and what you do. 95% of the time, they're going to want to know more. If you know what you're doing and you're a seasoned real estate investor, okay, respectfully talk about it a little bit at a super high level. If you're brand new, you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to know what to say. That's normal. You can say,
all right, welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. Today, I've got a very cool guest, Amy Mahjoory. Did I spell it right? I know I'm going to butcher that.
Yes, Mahjoory, whatever you, Mahjoory. I really don't care.
Cool. So you're a best-selling author, real estate investor, and you're a badass private money raiser. So I didn't even know you were a best-selling author until I was doing my show research. And you're like, yeah, not a lot of people know, but I wrote like a best-selling book. So let's start about like who you are, where you came from, and where you're at right now.
Yeah, I never talk. There's so much I don't talk about. I tell everyone I'm great at raising money. I suck at everything else. So I'm just a regular old girl, just Middle Eastern background. I was born and raised to go to school, get good grades, obtain the highest level of education. So I'm the only one in my family with just an MBA. Everyone else is a doctor, lawyer, or they have their PhD. So, 10 years ago, my background's corporate America. I worked for Dell Computers for the first 14 years of my career, which I still cannot believe. That seems like 9 lives ago. So 10 years ago, when I wanted to start flipping houses, that was really just meant to be a side hustle. I was an HGTV junkie. I heard an ad on the radio, give us all your money. We'll teach you how to flip houses. And I was like, that's a great idea.
How much did you give them?
Back then, 15 to 25,000. I don't remember. It was 10 years ago.
It was like 10, 15 years ago.
It was 10 years ago. And I love those guys. They are the reason, like I would not be where I am today without them. Right. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about some of the things I do today. I'm super type A, very competitive, played competitive sports. So even though I wanted soccer and track.
Yeah, like you look like a soccer player.
Your ass.
Like
I'm kidding.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But yeah, so even 10 years ago, when I wanted to flip a couple of houses for fun, because I'm so competitive, I was like, I want the fast track. Of course, I wanted to make money back then. I didn't have a why. It was really just to make money to probably blow it on stupid stuff. I don't even know. So that's how I started, but it's crazy because even though it was a side hustle and I had this natural talent that I didn't even know I had of raising private money, I was able to buy, renovate, and sell 10 high-end properties my very first year as a brand new part-time real estate investor while still working my job at Dell. So when I was at Dell after 14 years, when I was getting ready to resign, I was grossing $87,000 a year. That's after 14 years with an MBA. My very first year as a part-time real estate investor while still working my job at Dell, I net north of 120 in just real estate. So yeah, sure, the earning potential was great, right? And that was just the beginning. But I genuinely fell in love with the transformation process. So a few months later, I left my job at Dell and I became a full-time real estate investor in 2015.
So 2015, full-time real estate investor, and your life's changed, right? Like, because going from like that employee mindset, like trying to climb the corporate ladder, which obviously you were doing. And then, so I have a really direct question for you. Mm-hmm. Whenever I have like somebody joining my program, I know you have a program, there's usually a pain, right? So obviously when you bought that course, there was some sort of pain going on in your life. What was that?
I hated my job. Like literally that was it. I hated my job. I was tired of trying to climb the corporate ladder. Like I was 34, still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And like I said earlier, I didn't have a why, but I wanted to do something different. I thought my dream job was with Nike. So I was like, I'm still going to invest in a coaching program just to like flip a better house than my friends. That was literally the only reason. But then throughout that 1-year journey, when I really fell in love with it, then my pain point became my why. I finally had a why, which was my uncle, who was like a father to me, passed away from cancer. And it was the first time that I saw somebody like literally deteriorate before my very eyes. I'd never seen what cancer can do to somebody. And I have a very unique family background, which I don't talk about often either. I talk about this in my book, but my mom and her two sisters married my dad and his two brothers. So 3 sisters married 3 brothers. So my aunts and uncles were like my mom and dad. We were so close. My cousins are like my siblings. So when my uncle was passing away, like that's something that has forever changed my perspective on death and time. So my why became time, right? Like that could be me. That could be me right now. And that became my motivating factor, my motivating driver. I didn't have a boyfriend, a husband. I didn't have any kids at the time, but for me, I just wanted something more and I wanted to do something that I loved. And so at that time, I'd realized I'd fallen in love with real estate. And so when I quit my job at Dell, I wasn't scared. It was like this huge weight had been lifted off my shoulder because I knew for me, I was on the right path at that time.
100%. I mean, I think you put it into words so eloquently. It's just like, because there is something that's getting you to look at what you've been ignoring for a long time that was already there, right? Like that you already knew subconsciously that you weren't happy at your job, that you weren't being fulfilled, that you didn't have purpose, but you were trained to get a job, work your way up the corporate freaking ladder. Then something happens that forces you to examine where you're at in your life and how short time is. And it happened to be this really unique thing, which is that I find that to be unique. Now, I don't find that to be odd. I know you might feel like saying that is odd, but like 3 brothers that fell in love with 3 sisters kind of sounds like a fairy tale or something like that in my mind. And I mean, that's it. And so I get like, there's probably like a really tight dynamic then, like that's almost like losing a second father or something. I would imagine like something like that. Right. And so like, because they're brothers, right? And like, they're probably tight. Obviously they married all the same sisters. So I'm sure that family's just like tight. So when you lost like that member, it was like losing like a finger or something almost. And it forced you to examine your life. And so you invested this money in yourself. You did this program and you realized during that process that you're a good private money lender. How did you know to go raise private money? Is this something that you learned in the course?
Well, so what happened was, and look, there are so many real estate educators out there. I'm friends with all of them. I've been a part of a lot of different coaching programs. And what the majority, if not all educators out there will tell you, raising money is easy. Just go ask your friends and family members, right? That's like the gist of it. They might give you 1 or 2 strategies or 1 or 2 different pitch decks. They don't go into depth, right? And so for me, when I first started with my coach, they said, hey, I agree. The only way to grow and scale is you got to get out there and raise private money. They didn't teach me how to do it though. Like I knew I needed money. So I just figured that shit out. Like I talked to people, I educated them naturally. I was like, oh, why would somebody invest with me? Well, before they do, they have to know like my buying criteria, my target market, what contracts do I use? What does my deal analyzer look like? So these were just things I thought of. And again, I didn't know I was naturally good at that. Like I really suck at everything else. I'm just good at raising money. And I think that's why when I wrote my book, Networking with a Purpose, that was well before I even started my private money coaching program. It's all about how to talk to people and treat people with respect, right? And give first and expect nothing in return. And I think that foundation, that was like the founding principle of RPM, my private money coaching program, is just be a normal person. I could give you 1,000 scripts, but don't overthink it. Talk to people. Don't like vomit all over them and, you'll figure it out. So, but my coaches helped me in every other aspect, right? How to interview contractors, how to analyze deals, how to pick a target market. So there's no way I'd be where I am today without them. I was just really good at raising private money. And so for the first 8 years of my real estate career, investors all over the country were asking me for help. And I was like, thank you. But like, how do you not know how to do this? Like, I couldn't understand because it was so easy for me. And I didn't want to start a coaching program because I was like, that's a lot of work. Like, no, thank you. I really value my time. Like, it is so much work managing contractors and all that stuff. And now, I have a 4-year-old. I'm very transparent and I own it and I love it. I work 25 hours a week and that's too much. So I'm trying to dwindle that down. But at the height of COVID,
my wife feels the same way. My wife is like, dude, she's like, she looked at me the other day and she's like, I don't want to work anymore. I got too many freaking hobbies and I got stuff I like to do. And I'm like, I was like, just one more year. Cause she really helps me in my business. I was like, we were not planning on moving to Kansas City. We're building our house in Florida. I'm like, just one more year. I just need one more. I said, and then you can literally be on the couch. I don't care. I just need you grinding it out for me with one more year, because I got a lot of stuff I want to accomplish and I really need her help on a lot of those things, you know?
But I love that. That is so cute. And she's on board and supportive.
She always is. Like, she 100% always, like, when we lived in Vegas for the last 15 years, and I don't want to talk about myself. I want to go back to like you, because
okay, to be continued.
Yeah, we can touch back on that, but I really wanted, like, you mentioned a couple things that I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for, and I want to really tell that narrative the way I hear it and see it. The reason that most real estate coaches, myself included, say that is because they either have done it and they have the confidence in the product that they're doing. They flipped enough, and then they went to raise private money, and so they're like, they had a good network. Like with me, I didn't have to give my guy a big like, I raised private money on my skyscraper. I didn't have to give my guy a performer. I'm like, yo, you see what I do? It's 1.3, and I didn't have to go through anything. But if I'm insecure, number one, about what I'm doing, number two, about having conversations with people, which you put so eloquently, which is truly, I'm going to dumb it down, leave it a little bit more. Read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People book if you want a step-by-step about how to talk to people. Because the biggest mistake that Amy is saying is that most people just go talk about themselves, get to know the person, be their friend, and then present it, is what I heard you say, is present a presentation that gets them to say yes about how you've analyzed your deal, versus just going in there and saying like, hey, this is what Troy said to do. And so let's go into the step-by-step of how you present the hard money and what you offer people who invest with you, or what you think somebody who's a new investor should offer people, or somebody who's seasoned should offer people.
Yeah, and I'll break that down as much as you'd like today. And I love what you just said, just to kind of segue into that first step, which is, I'm the complete opposite of everyone else. I'm going to tell you raising money is simple when you know what you're doing. And no, you don't need to depend on your friends and family members. And for me, it's because I didn't have supportive friends and family members. And I know a lot of your listeners are dealing with the lack of support from their loved ones, their friends. I lost 3 best girlfriends along the way because I was trying to push entrepreneurship onto them. My dad wasn't even supportive about what I was doing. I had signed a contract with HGTV, turned multiple 6-figure profits, and my dad still wouldn't talk about real estate. So I'm very stubborn, and I took all of that lack of support and negative energy as my momentum to prove them wrong. So I literally had to raise money from strangers, Uber drivers, people at airports, on airplanes, my neighbors, church, bars, restaurants. So that's how I created the step-by-step system. And so it starts with, so number one is really, you guys, mindset. Stop feeling bad. Don't feel bad asking someone for money. No one's doing you a favor. You don't need to depend on your friends and family members. Your credit, your liquidity, it's all irrelevant. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about your skin in the game. The next time someone says you got to have skin in the game, that just means you're not talking to the right person. So you are the polished professional poised for aggressive growth. I don't care if you're a brand new real estate investor, right? You're here because you want to be here. You want to learn. You're in the middle of building a team. Before you ever start raising money, you're going to have picked a neighborhood. You're going to know how to analyze deals. Otherwise, don't even think about raising money. So Step one is just mindset and trying to squash all those fears that we normally may have, and just recognizing that we're doing them a favor. We're the ones allowing them to invest with us. We're the ones offering them double-digit returns backed by real estate, right? With protection, security, and insurance. They don't get that in the bank. They don't get that in the stock market. So it really starts with mindset. And then it goes into you're just planting seeds. So I just got done recording a webinar. Last week, I did an impromptu 1-day private money workshop. And I said to everyone, I'm like, you guys, listen to me now, because I promise one of you is going to DM me on Instagram saying, I've got a deal. What do I do to raise money? So I'm telling you guys right now, step one for the rest of your life, whether you're new or experienced, regardless of your investment strategy, it's my 4-second power pitch. So my 4-second power pitch, if you want to link it, Troy, you can. I show people how to earn double-digit returns backed by real estate, but there's a way to deliver that, right? So anyone and everyone you encounter moving forward, when they ask you what you do, talk about your amazing skyscrapers or your short-term rental portfolio or a multifamily fund. But end it with, I also show people how to earn double-digit returns backed by real estate. So nice to meet you. What do you do? That's it. You're just planting seeds because naturally, what are they going to ask you when they hear that?
Yeah, it's a hook, right? Like it's
totally.
It's a hook at the end of your sentence, which is like, for those guys who are not familiar with social media, usually start with a hook. She ended with a hook, which I like. You're like, by the way, or it's like a by the way segue. I also like help a lot of people get rich through real estate or double-digit returns, like whatever you want to say. I think it's so important is she's just putting it out there. And if they're interested, they're going to say, well, tell me more about that, right? Tell me more about, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You're planting seeds. You're not talking. Nobody cares about what you're doing right now. You're just planting seeds. You're announcing to the world who you are and what you do. 95% of the time, they're going to want to know more. Right. And that's when, if you know what you're doing and you're a seasoned real estate investor, okay, respectfully talk about it a little bit at a super high level. If you're brand new, you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to know what to say. That's normal. You can say, I would love to tell you more about like who I am and what I do, but I want to be respectful of your time. I'm here with my friends or family. Just give me your number. I'll give you a call next week and I'll break down at a really high level, like what I'm talking about. So that's it. That's step one.
Do you use like a PowerPoint? I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Number one, I care about all those people raising money, but I care about this guy and raising money for funds. And so because I literally, full transparency, I have done like one private money raise besides my mom on some sub 2 deals. And that was on my skyscraper. I usually take everything down either with myself or in the beginning with partners, which I still have some partnerships out there. But raising private money is something that I've never done. Number one, because I don't want to report to anybody. Just like you, I'm kind of a maverick. I don't like to have to answer to anybody. So I didn't want anybody in my business. But as I look and I scale and I realize like, hey, I'm really damn good at this shit. I've seen a lot of people who I thought were better at this shit not be as good at this stuff as I am. And I look at where I'm at, Kansas City, Missouri right now, the opportunities with the historical tax credits, which is crazy. It's 45 cents on the dollar of any money that you flip. And I'm like, what is the best way? I saw you at Paces. I know he's got a fund. What is the best way to raise money for a fund?
Ooh, I just did a rapid fire private money Q&A on that yesterday on Instagram Live. So whether it's for, the answer is it doesn't matter what it's for. The process to get there, it's all the same. And I can break down like the first 7 steps for you. But whether it's a fund, you're taking down a $2 million partnership deal, you're flipping a house, you need money for transactional funding on a wholesale deal, it doesn't matter. At least with the way I teach it and what I've been doing myself, you follow the first 7 steps and it doesn't matter if you're buying an RV park or self-storage or whatever. It's building rapport and trust with people and getting complete strangers to invest with you in as little as 21 days because you've done a good job of educating them on who you are, what you do, what's in it for you, and what's in it for me. So the next step, like if you're raising money for a fund, like, and you're different, Troy, like you've already got a network, you've got a proven track record. So for you, it's just a matter of like casting a wider net and taking half of your audience through like a general private money presentation. But the other half, I'm assuming they already like know what you do. They understand the benefits. They may just want to go straight to the deal. So having a more sophisticated private money presentation, maybe one of your strategies is like what I did in 2017. I only, targeted prospective private money lenders who had a self-directed 401k. So having a presentation tailored more around like Wall Street and what's happening with hedge funds. But step 2 is after you capture the interest of people through your 4-second power pitch is, all right, let's hop on a 15-minute Zoom. That's it. I'm going to break down at a super high level 4 things: who I am and what I'm doing. Number 2 is what's in it for me. Why do we leverage OPM? Number 2, what's in it for you, the private money lender. And then number 3, now what? So that's just a super high level overview of who I am and what I do. And if you want to know more, cool. And if not, no pressure. That's it. You're still not talking numbers, right? You're just outlining the benefits.
I had it all wrong. I totally had it all wrong. And I'm going to say what I thought it was. I thought it's qualify the person and not hook them. And I'm told, because what I'm looking at is like, how do I create a top tier digital marketing VSL and turn it into a pitch? And what I'm hearing for you is it's the same way that I'm selling the coaching program, which is basically explain what people are going to get, break it down for them. And then if they're interested, they book a call and you do like a webinar or something with everybody.
Yeah, and you can do that too. So look, the qualification process and what works for me may not work for you. Like this is just what I've been doing in testing and measuring for 10 years. And I believe in a qualification. I believe in the qualification process. Normally what I'll do is, so step 3 will be, I'll call them a week later and I'll say, hey, I just wanted to thank you for your time. Any follow-up questions on the general, overview I shared with you? They'll say yes or no. And then at that point, I'll email them. Like I have a 5-page list of frequently asked questions. So I'll email that to them and it's very casual. A week later, I'll call them again. And I literally just put the stuff into I don't have a fancy CRM to track this stuff. I'll call them a week later. Any questions? You want to know more? They're going to say, yeah. Then I'll maybe say, all right, I'm going to break down the contracts we use, or I'll take you through a sample of a previous deal. If you haven't done a deal before, you guys can just take them through your deal analyzer, right? Because you shouldn't be raising money if you don't know how to analyze deals. And then at that point, I'll say, hey, I understand you're interested as we continue to develop a relationship and I continue to build your confidence in me and vice versa, because it goes both ways. I want to have fun with my private money lenders. My private money lenders turn into family. We go on vacations together. So you're vetting me just as much as I'm vetting you. I want to make sure I put you into the right deal. So it'll be on like the 4th or 5th touch point where I say, how much, assume we decide to move forward, what investment amount are you comfortable with, so that I can keep that in mind as I continue to market for leads.
Ooh, I like that. That's it. You got some nice word tracks.
Thank you.
Assume we decide to move forward. What would you say is the most amount of money you've ever raised from one individual, and then collectively?
Oh, so you're asking me that from one individual? The most,
I was trying to play off the words.
The most from one individual is $1 million. That was a seller financing deal. On average, after that, it's like 500, 300 to 500. But I have a bunch. Like when I first started, you guys, like I wasn't doing these multi-million-dollar projects, right? When I first started, it was 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. And depending on how many private money lenders you work with on your deals, usually it goes one of 2 ways. If you have 2, maybe 3, depending on your investment strategy, you don't need a fund or to syndicate anything. You just have 3 separate set of loan documents and 3 lien positions. You're golden, you're compliant with everything. If you're getting 20 here, 30 there, 100 there, and it's like more than 3 people on a deal, what you can do, and I do this as well, is you can set up a multi-member LLC. So all your private money lenders, up to 5-ish is what my attorney recommends, goes onto that one LLC. That one LLC is the lien position, and the loan docs get drawn up under that. Or if it's like a huge multifamily, multi-million-dollar syndication, then you'll want to work with a securities attorney and set up, the appropriate type of contractual paperwork and fund.
One, would you just want to do a promissory note or a joint venture or something? Yeah. And keep it.
I'm greedy. I'm going to tell you, don't JV. I mean, I have a lot of students who do JV, and 50% of something is still better than nothing, right? But if you just have 1 or 2, there are 3 basic contracts, which is going to be the promissory note, the recorded mortgage, and the insurance certificate. There may or may not be a personal guarantee. There may or may not be a joint venture agreement, but the 3 basics are the promissory note, insurance certificate, and the recorded mortgage.
So you need that to raise private money. Otherwise you're not legal. Is that what you're saying, quote unquote, because of like the laws?
Yeah. So look, I'm not an attorney, disclaimer, talk to your attorneys, invest at your own risk. There are plenty of people, now I don't do this, who are willing to just lend me money on a handshake. Right. I don't think that's smart for either one of us. Even if it's with somebody I know, I still treat it like a business. I still give them the promissory note. There may be private money lenders out there for some of you who don't care about the security, the collateral, right? And maybe they just ask you to sign a personal guarantee. So that's on you. You guys have to decide your level of risk.
Yeah, no, it seems like you make people feel really comfortable by going the extra mile with all of these things.
Yeah, yep, go ahead.
Amy, do you raise money for other people who have funds?
Oh God, this is going to get aired. I'm going to get hit up with all these messages.
We can cut it out if you want.
No, it's okay. So yes and no. I just recorded this webinar literally right before you and I jumped on, and I said, the one thing I wish I would have done differently when I started investing 10 years ago was becoming someone's capital partner. in essence, yeah, you're raising money for someone else, but it's more than just me raising money for you. I'm your partner. So I'm going to leverage your team, your name, our relationship. I get anywhere from 25 to 50% equity. And I'm choosing to just do this with you. I'm not going to do it with a bunch of people. So I want to become someone's capital partner with somebody who has deal flow, who understands risk, who has a proven track record. So I do that. I teach my students to do that. So right now I do that with 2 people. So in Phoenix, Arizona, I've got one go-to person. I'll do deals all day long with them. They're my partner in like every way. And then same with San Diego. And me personally, I'm not looking to expand on that because I don't need to. I love my 2 partners. They're amazing. But that's absolutely something that like you guys can do. Either become someone's capital partner or go find someone who's willing to raise money for you in return and give them equity.
Yeah, because the people that I've talked to from all the masterminds that I'm a part of, they always talk about, when they talk about private money, they're like, even the better, if you want to get to the highest level, is partner with somebody who's really good at raising capital. So like, this could be completely a skill set, just like Amy says. Like, if you're good at raising capital and you're not good at finding deals, you could probably put yourself into deals, because there's a lot of people like me who aren't good at raising capital, but they're excellent at getting deals.
Totally. And this happens all the time. Like, there will be people who will come into my community, and they'll say, I don't even know. I know I want to work in real estate, but I don't know what investment strategy I want to move forward with. And I'll be like, girl, even if you're a guy, hey, girl, it doesn't matter. Like, we need money. So go learn how to raise money. And more than likely, there are plenty of people in or outside of the RPM community who will gladly pay you equity. Like, I couldn't believe this is something I realized 2 years ago. I was speaking at an event in Las Vegas and I stepped off stage. There were I think there were 8,000 people at this event, in person and virtual. And the person hosting the event said, or someone from his team said, hey, do you want to raise money for us? And I was like, no, like, that stresses me out. That's a lot of work. Like, I'm not about to start reporting to you. And then 2 days later, I was like, Amy, this is a huge opportunity for you to develop a relationship with these people, but also generate multiple streams of income, right? Like, you've got more money coming in than you need. This is what you preach. Why not do it? So this is what's so cool about those of you who are listening. Even if you don't have deal flow, when you know how to raise private money, I went into this person's office and I was like, hey, I'd love to partner with you. Here are my terms within respect, right? Like, don't call me every day. When I've got extra money that I need to deploy, I'll let you know. We'll do it on a deal by deal basis. And I had him put the number out first as far as like the equity they were offering. And I wasn't going to ask for that much in equity. But when he said 25% just for gap funding, I was like, yes, all day long, I will do that. But it's not just me raising the money. I nurtured that private money lender relationship. I'm the one that my private money lender talks to. It's my name that's on the line. The contracts are done by me. I have to decide if I'm going to sign.
Reputation, so it needs to be a partnership, because part of the partnership is your reputation with people that you've raised money to. I'm sure that's the people you're going to first. And it's one of those things like, the ability to raise capital depends on the ability to deliver results. And I will tell you, there's a lot of syndicators right now, and I've been waiting for this, truthfully. Yeah. And you can call me a hater, but I've known there's been so many people that have just put it out there, raised capital first, understood real estate second. And even people who or got caught greedy because they're good at raising capital and they're not good at analyzing deals, right? I know several people personally that are sophisticated people, very good at investing, and got caught up in some things, some syndication deals, and were like GPs, and they're losing several thousands of properties in major markets because of the bridge and the jump in the loan. And, just because, for those people who are listening, generally in a syndication, raising capital is a payment plan for people who are doing syndication deals. And a lot of people who just do syndication deals, that's how they get paid on everything. And so for them, even if the deal doesn't make the best sense all the time, it makes the most sense for them because they're raising capital. They're getting paid for acquisition. They're getting paid for finance. They're getting paid for raising capital, where it's like the deal's got to make sense first, no matter what, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And whoever decides to raise money for somebody else, you have to know, don't just trust that person. You have to understand the deal. You have to know how to underwrite it. You have to believe in it. You have to be able to answer the hard questions, because you're the face of the partnership as it pertains to solving the money problem. You don't want to keep saying, I don't know, to your private money lender and then calling up your partner, right? So there's a lot that goes into selectively picking a partner.
Have you ever had someone that you were going to raise money for, or help raise money for, that you felt that like they had unscrupulous? And I'm not going to ask you to tell about who it is, but I have definitely interviewed some people, not you, obviously. I've interviewed some people, and I'm like, and then my team went and put them through the little YouTube, and we found these other things. And like, there's just a lot of people that are willing to say whatever the hell they got to say and say it. And so I know you've run into some interesting characters, and I'm just kind of wondering about.
I mean, so I observe and witness every day people who we all know on social media misleading the general public. As far as me personally, I have not experienced anything negative like that from the people I know. Now, of course, I get hit up all the time from like random people, but I don't ever take it. I don't ever look into those opportunities any further just because I'm good with what I'm doing right now. But so no, fortunately, I've never encountered that. I mean, I've lost a bunch of money, made money, lost money, but I've never encountered, oh no, I did. I partnered with one of my general contractors in Chicago.
Oh, it's always the GCs, man. I tell you, I've gotten worked by GCs more than anybody else.
Oh my God. I just remembered another one. Yeah, there are two GCs in Chicago. One of them like straight up stole 6 figures from me. And then, my role was the capital partner. So you guys, here's another,
was it money down for the deposit for
no,
whatever?
I raised all of it. And he straight up like pretended like all of that money went into change orders when he used it to pay off other jobs. So, but my lesson learned there, you guys, was make sure that you're always controlling the money. Don't give anyone else control or access to the banking. So that one. And then the other GC, he was actually a good guy.
But he stole your money.
He didn't steal the money.
That's when he's a good con man. When you're saying he's a good guy and he stole your money, that means he's a good con. The first
guy's a good con man. The second guy was a good guy. He just didn't know what he was doing. So that was my bad for not vetting him properly. But that's so funny. I totally forgot about that until you asked me those questions. Thanks. Now I'm all mad. It was years ago.
I literally didn't mean to get you mad. I wanted to explain to people like that it's not always what you see. It's not how it's said. You have to, and that's why I got on social media. Like I was a private person, Amy. Yeah. I didn't want my shit out there, but I got out there because I was like, man, I'm real. I know what I'm doing. And a lot of these people, like when you see them talking about stuff, you're like, you have no idea what you're even doing or talking about. And you're out there selling somebody like who's believing you because you know how to sell.
Yeah. Like that's messed up. And I do see that stuff on social media all the time. Like, I don't know. I don't ever say anything because I don't think it's my place, but
that's a hard line to toe. The other day I spoke up and I told my wife about something to somebody, and she's like, well, why didn't you just keep your mouth shut? I was like, you know what? Too many people keep their mouth shut, and I didn't. So
I know.
But I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and I think I know actually that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about teaching the power of raising private money. Like I'm a product of coaching. I see how coaching has changed my life. Nobody teaches private money the way I do. Like with all due respect, I have no competitors. So
I've never heard of one.
Other people out there teach capital raising, but it's not through building genuine relationships broken down step by step, who to target, who not to target, what to say, what not to say, when to pivot. Right. So it's cool. It's unique. And it's like, this shit really works, you guys. Like my husband in the other room is probably going to scold me for saying, like, just do what I say, and you will have success. You know,
You've never told him that, have you?
What?
You've never told him that, have you?
Oh no, never. I'm not always right as I sit here rolling.
It take to house train a husband. My wife's like on year number, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm halfway there.
I should call him in here. We're going on 7.
You guys 7 years together?
We've been together for 10 years, married for 7, almost 7.
Okay, that's cool. So where did you guys meet?
We met at a real estate conference. He likes to say it was love at first rehab. Every time I roll my eyes, but the audience laughs. So, we were a part of the same mentorship program. And then we both started like, coaching and speaking for that company. And he had his flips going on in Ohio. I had my flips going on in Chicago. So we met when we were, later in life. We had established our own businesses. And so that's also why I'm very passionate about whether you're male or female. Like, you don't need a partner. You don't need a husband, a boyfriend. Like, you can do this shit on your own. It's just like
independent women. Yeah, absolutely. What? Independent women. Like, right. Like, my wife is big on that. She's like, we got our stuff. I got my stuff and you got your stuff. Like it, especially when you get married a little bit older, or like, even like if you're starting together, like, and I think it's a different world that we live in these days, and the traditional values kind of need to be taken out a little bit. And it's like, listen, it's ours, it's yours, and it's mine. Like, there is stuff that, like, you know what I mean? That's not just ours, right? Like, you have to have your own identity a little bit. And but I want to ask you about your family. Like, you mentioned that you lived in Chicago and you worked in Austin. Where's the family out now? Where are you guys spending your time at right now?
So now, at the height of COVID, we've lived all over. We were living in San Diego. Our daughter was 6 months old. We were very fortunate to have my mother-in-law or my mom with us every day for the first 6 months of our daughter's life. So when they left, we were like, oh snap, we got to raise this kid on our own. We have no family in San Diego. Yeah. We left, and that was the height of COVID. And our plan was to move back to Chicago, but it was like the height of all the looting, the riots, the crime. And I was like a freaked out first time mom. So we actually lived out of a suitcase. We lived out of our expedition, and we would stay with my in-laws for a month in Ohio and then my parents for a month in Michigan. And we did that for 6 or 7 months. And finally, 3.5 years ago, we decided to move back to where I used to live in Austin, Texas. So this is our home base now.
Do you like Austin?
I love Austin, but after living in San Diego, it's very hard. Nothing really compares. So our hearts will always.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Just because I just got back from a mastermind in Oceanside, and me and my wife flew into San Diego and got to spend the day there and really get to know it. I hadn't been there in a while. It's been like I think I spoke at a mastermind in 2010, but I really hadn't been there for probably 10 years. And I really enjoyed it too. I was like, wow. Like, I told my wife, I was like, if I was ever going to move to California, it would be San Diego. And I don't like California. So like, what did you, and we went up to Cabrillo Park over there. If you know where that is, where the memorial is, and they have all you drive basically behind San Diego. You're looking at Chula Vista and you're looking at San Diego, and you're on the point opposite ends of the airport where they have the National Cemetery and they have a little like a public park, whatever you call it, national park, and it was really beautiful. We spent the whole day there.
I'm familiar with those areas by the airport. My husband lived there for 10 years, so he's going to know exactly what you're referring to.
Point Loma.
Oh yeah, Point Loma, yes. That's a great area, by the way, for those of you who want to flip in San Diego. Point Loma is amazing.
Absolutely.
We were so lucky. We lived in Bird Rock, a tight little community in La Jolla, and our neighbors had been there for generation after generation. I mean, I'm 45. One of my closest neighbors, who's a good friend of mine, is like 65. Then the other one is like 53. It's crazy, just the people you meet. And we became really close just as we were getting ready to leave. But yeah, I moved there in 2015. So I basically focus on building my power team in downtown Chicago. When I found the people I trusted, I was able to move to San Diego, and I continued to flip in Chicago. But it's crazy because once you have the right people on your team, you guys, we were buying, renovating, and selling properties sight unseen because I had so much trust with that contractor. So it makes or breaks the difference, especially when you're first getting started.
And Chicago's really tough to flip in. Just for those who are listening right now, they've got all sorts of local ordinances in Cook County and like aldermen, and like you got it's like New Jersey and Chicago are the two worst states to flip in my opinion. Or Chicago's not a state, but New Jersey, the state makes you get a clear occupancy on every property when it transfers. It's like the biggest bunch of BS.
Yeah. I mean, in Chicago, you got to play the game. You got to butter up the inspectors. You got to play the political game with the aldermen. Your neighbor, because we were like downtown, neighbors will complain. They hate us house flippers because we're forcing their taxes to go up, and they don't see the other side of it. But let's
go into that, Amy, because I think that's something that's hit home a lot. It's like, okay, if you play the tape forward with a house flipper, you're like, okay, you bought this abandoned property or this property that was in high disrepair. You then put your money into it and improved it. And then you sold it to a family. And they were able to move into a neighbor or a house that was sitting there vacant. A lot of times these houses are vacant for years and years and years or have serious blight. And you did this, and now you're evil, greedy, money hungry, no good son of a gun. But if you had done that for yourself, then you'd be a nice person. But because you did it
right
to sell to somebody else, you're a jerk.
I mean, correct. The stories I have, like one neighbor threatened to sue me for $16,000. I'm not kidding. $16,000 because one of my contractors stepped on her $16 Home Depot plant. And I offered to replace it. She was like, no, that's not fair. I said, what is fair?
What blood?
16. I was like, look, lady, go sue me. Good luck.
How many neighbors have you gotten into it with?
I mean, maybe 5, but all of my properties, they were on like the same 2 blocks. So, but there was one crazy neighbor. I mean, she would vandalize all my signs. It was just, and I was too stubborn to leave. Yeah. That's a whole nother story. Like she was crazy.
There is something to be said with, I can tell where your mindset's at, Amy, and we have very similar mindsets. And I will tell you that whole no quit thing can be overrated because you also know when to you need to know when to back off. Like I have the same thing. I'm like, shit, my wife's like, you need to just chill out. I'm like, okay. But there's like, you dig in and you're like, you know.
I had one next door neighbor. I shit you not. I wish I would have kept it. This guy, I don't even know what his job was, but I know he was not an architect. I showed up at the job site one day and he gave me, 2 pieces of paper, like 8.5 by 11s, hand sketched with a pencil with the finest level of detail, the front of our house and the type of siding that he would like us to pick because he's going to have to look at the house every day. And I was boiling, like my blood was boiling. And I was like, thank you, sir. But just so you know, you don't have a say in the transformation process. Like, thanks, but
I'm going to give a shout out here then. I have a lady, same type of lady. This is the craziest stuff in Kansas City, right? When we're moving out here, right? And listen, I will tell you one thing about the Midwest, and you lived here. Everybody out here was super nice to me, except for one lady. I was flipping this first house in this area called Coleman Highlands, Kansas City, Missouri. Really, actually where the mayor lives. But we were on the ass end of it. It was the worst house in the neighborhood. I have the neighborhood association lady saying like, hey, I need to get to meet with you. And I'm like, what do you need to meet me about? She's like, well, you're flipping the house. I'd like to take a look at it. I'm like, you're in charge of the exterior. Is there anything you want me to do on the exterior? Because I know the neighbor game. And usually they're never trying to help you out, okay?
Yeah.
Like I have had very few neighbors of houses that I flipped that have come to me and tried to be nice. They've either told me that there's something that I don't know about that I should know about, right? And it's usually never true. Or they've told me that I'm encroaching on their property and this is their chance to get like a bigger piece of their property. But like this lady went out of her way, Amy, to like report me like to 311, like all, and I'm like, listen. That's fine. You just created an enemy, right? Like I'm just as aggressive as you are. Let's go. Like I'll sue you. But
like I will knock you out.
Yeah, exactly. My point is like when you're dealing with like adversity, and since you're so dug in, like how do you kind of tune out some of these negative types of people? You know what I mean? Like it's really hard sometimes, right?
I still struggle with that. Like I still, like, as we speak, I just had a Bigger Pockets episode released and I'm purposely not reading the comments. I still struggle with it. You know what I did back then was I would make my contractor the bad guy. If someone needed to soften it over, I'd send over my sister-in-law. And I would pay her, but
smart. You know that you're going to get pissed off.
It's hard. Yeah. Like it is hard for me to maintain my emotions. So, and to a fault, I have been very rude and disrespectful to people. So I try not to be the one who speaks to them.
Right. So that's okay. I mean, like you got to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are. You're like, it's just like, don't put myself in there because I'm going to it's maybe rude or disrespectful, but in your way, you're probably sticking up for yourself, right? Like, it's like,
yeah, I just know what can and can't happen. Look, I've spent a bunch of money suing contractors, taking them to court and winning judgments for hundreds of thousands of dollars that I could never collect on because I was so stubborn, right? So I know what the neighbors can and can't do.
Right?
Yeah, it's like,
I've had a few of them myself, okay? And I can tell you, this is something to talk about. Like, just because you're right, like, even like I had a deal, and I'll talk about it. I have a confidentiality agreement, so I can't talk too much about it, but I'll say the general things I can talk about it. But I had a small amount of money, like a very small amount of money that these people didn't deserve because they weren't entitled to it. But I could have given it to them, and I wouldn't have had a big thing that I had to deal with. But I fought it for a number of years and went all the way to the federal Supreme Court of that particular state. And I was right, never had a case, never had an attempt, but still was in a situation where I was screwed. They call it a home cooking in the state I was at. But the point is like, we're raised with this mentality of like, hey, if you're right, you're going to be proven right. But actually what you're really raised with is they tell you is life's not fair. And it's very true that life is not fair. People don't like you. And what Amy said in the beginning of this conversation is nobody freaking cares.
Nobody cares. Just be true to yourself, be a good person, do what is right and legal, right? And we are all going to have haters. We're going to have people who love us. And it's hard, like, because I know, like, I'm not an asshole. You know what I mean? So it's hard when, like, I get negative, like, lash on social media.
The comments are really tough, man. The comments are really, there's a lot of nasty people on there. And they just are like, how do I shoot this person down and make that? And they're really good, especially a lot of people that are going I'm going to find that one insecurity shot, and I'm going to hit you on the head with it. And you get enough of that, and you're like, you start to like, so I do believe don't check out the comments. Put out the stuff. Don't check out the comments because it could bring you down for sure. I did want to kind of wrap some things up, but end on some things that I wanted to link to that you had mentioned. One was you said that we could link to your, what was
4-second power pitch.
4-second power pitch. Okay.
So I'll email that to you as soon as we wrap. I'll send it over. It's pretty cool. It comes with it's actually 2 scripts, the 4-second power pitch and then the 20-second follow-up. And then it comes with like a video tutorial you guys can watch online, like where I go through a few examples of how I use it, whether I'm a seasoned real estate investor or brand new.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to check that out. I'm excited to share it I'm going to share it with my students. And I'm really excited that you were come on here today and was sharing your story. And it sounds like it's just getting going. You got a new daughter, your life's changing, your purpose is changing. You're 10 years into your relationship and you got your new private money business, which is flourishing. You've got a monopoly on that whole space. And that's cool. And you've the first person that I've talked to that's spoken intelligently about it, articulately about it. Because you're right. Everybody always says the same thing. Just go talk to your friends and family, and then that coach spreads that same lesson down. When in fact, it's actually a much more precise thing. And when you said that to me, I was like, did I ever meet her at an event? Because I feel like somebody pitched me that same way at an event. And I also help people.
A lot of people say it now. I'm sure we have a lot of common connections. So
for sure. Well, it's been a pleasure, Amy, having you on. I appreciate you spending your time with me. It is your most valuable resource. And we'll definitely link to all those things and yours. How can people follow your story, follow your journey, and say nice comments about you?
You can always connect with me on Instagram at Amy Mahjoory. I'll also be hosting a 2-day private money implementation conference in Austin, May 4th and 5th. You can read more about that through Instagram. And so it's an implementation conference. So laptops and cell phones are required because we will be raising private money live in the room. And then my guest speakers will be showing you all the different ways you can deploy the funds that you're starting to raise.
Ooh, that sounds like it's real action taking on the spot versus just perception, right? She's actually going to teach you how to do it in time. So that sounds like something you definitely want to attend, because if she's telling you to bring your phone and laptop, she's saying we're actually going to do some work. And if you're serious about doing it, she's going to hold you accountable, which is what you need to be successful with a coach in business. I'll tell you that, because if you want a coach that doesn't hold you accountable, then they're going to say, hey, we'll just talk about it. Nobody will bring anything. We won't do anything and nothing will get done. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing that. That tells me who you are as a person. So Amy, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Appreciate you sharing your story. I'm looking forward. And maybe I'll put it out there. I'll plant my seed. Maybe you'll take on a third partner down the way because I've got an excellent track record and I'm planning on doing a bunch more shit, but I don't want to learn how to raise private money at this stage in the game. So
you're off to a great start. You're putting it out there.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I appreciate you. And if you have anything else, make sure you give Amy a follow. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review. Make sure you share it with your friends. And this just shows you, once you put your mind to something, what you can do, and you've taken a subsection of real estate and made it an entire thing that you can make a lot of money at. And I will tell you, it's probably the most powerful tool in real estate besides deal finding is raising capital.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I've really enjoyed our time together, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, cool. Peace.
Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action.